Welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today, finally, we're tackling our top 10 war games of 2022. Now, I say finally, this is actually probably a little earlier than we've had it in previous
It's February,
years.
and we've done it before in March and April.
Yeah. So, we kind of called it a season after
Yeah.
having played... How many war games we played this year?
I counted we played 47 different war games.
That were published in 2022.
Yep.
That's a lot of war games.
It is.
That's kind of a gross amount of war
Some
games.
were smaller, right? We
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
couple little ones, but yeah, 47.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
That's not bad. So...
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we game typically once a week.
Every weekend, yeah.
So, I mean...
Sometimes twice a week.
You're looking at
Not
50
often.
game sessions a year, so it's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So, yeah, we get through a ton of games. So,
Yep.
as is annual tradition, we'll talk about the top 10 that we played that were published in 2022. So, do you want me to hit it off first?
Sure.
We're just going to dive right on in. Or do we want to do honorable mentions first?
Let's do honorable mentions at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Right.
So,
Without further ado.
without further ado, my number 10 war game is a game that I was very surprised by, and that is 1815, Scum of the Earth, from All or Nothing. And here's the back of the box. There you go, you're welcome. This was a game, I only picked this up at the end of kind of our gaming, but it came out earlier, or like kind of halfway through 2022. Yeah. And a huge surprise to me. Like, I kind of like, we played it, and I was like, let's play it because it looks fun. I was not expecting it to kind of pack as much of a punch as it did.
Frankly, I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
It was that good. And it's a card-based game, so there's... The only other components are some wound tokens and...
That's it.
Cards.
Yeah.
That's it.
A couple little tokens.
So it's not a traditional war game, but it
No.
definitely is
Yeah.
Napoleonic Wars, 1815.
It's a very abstract
Waterloo.
game.
Yep.
It's very cool, and I really enjoyed it. It's lovely production values,
The art is fantastic.
but
Yep.
the fun that we had playing this was,
Yeah.
it was right up there. This was reminiscent of a lot of other kind of games that we played, like the Lord of the Rings living card game. Has
Yep.
some kind of familiarity with that style, which we like.
It has locations that equate to battles, and you have to fight through those to get to the final confrontation at Waterloo.
Yeah.
It's a very unique, interesting thing. You have a 9-space kind of field, and you have to deploy your troops smartly there to hinder the other side and capture the final objectives. And it's really cool, very tactical.
Yeah.
Lots of strategy, lots of take that factor. There's a
Yes.
lot of that.
And
You got to be prepared for
A
that.
very different style of game than you normally see on our channel that we normally play.
And I'm not sure I would have ever played this before, but now that we did, we went ahead and bought the other two
Oh yeah,
games in the
I got
system.
1066 over here. You got 1569. Whatever.
And
it
we're
is.
1565,
Yeah,
St.
that's right.
Elmo. Love that game.
Just fun.
It was
Like,
fantastic.
yeah, it's just a fun game. I had so
Yeah.
much fun with it. It kind of it was right there.
Well, and it's one of those games, too, that you're going to battle each other, and you're going to start to kind of understand what the decks are about, and you're going to start to understand how the other player plays, and it really is tense. We had some really knockdown, drag-out to the very end battles. Now, I think, and I think you would agree with me, I think the British are a little overpowered.
Yeah,
In some ways.
or at least they're more like beginner friendly. I think they're more
Right.
straightforward of a faction.
I feel like the French have a lot more tricks, but you got to get them to work.
Yes,
And that's
and you play it a couple
the challenge.
times to kind of figure out, oh, this synergizes with this, and I got to do this to trigger this thing. A bit more with the French
Yeah,
stuff. Now.
it's great.
But
though.
just a really fun, enjoyable game.
I did not have that on my list. I wish I could.
There's
It
only
was
so many
fantastic.
games.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, so my number 10
Yes.
is a classic hex encounter war game from Multiman Publishing, A Victory Awaits.
Yes.
Right? This is a game, I think they call it the Red Box series,
Yes.
because the first game was A Victory Lost.
Yeah, Victory Lost and Victory,
Victory Denied.
which came in red boxes.
Yep, and this deals with Operation Barbarossa, 1941, and it is the Army Group.
So it's got all of them in it.
It does, but we played
Army Group North,
Yeah.
which was push on Leningrad.
And that was, I'm going to tell you, It's a good old hex and counter war game. Rules are very understandable, very simple. I liken this a lot to SCS.
It's a
Meaning
similar level of approachability.
Right.
Very easy.
Long lines of units. There's only 2 counters typically in a stack. A lot about logistics. It's a lot about supply. And extending yourself too far opens your flanks up and you can be really punished. There's some really punishing elimination rules for being out of supply.
Yeah, don't do it.
And I pushed it too much and lost some of my guys because of that. But I enjoyed this. We actually put on some Shostakovich in the background, Symphony number 7. Had a great thematic experience. We played all evening, had our tweezers out, and had a blast.
Yeah.
I wanted to play immediately again, and that's saying a lot for an East Front war game.
Yes.
A lot of times it's a slog. This one didn't feel like a slog.
No, the pace of this, because you only play 1941. It's like August to the end of December.
Yeah.
And so it's just that push. So as the Russians, you're playing defensively. But
you're playing defensively with, I think, the opportunity to counterattack significantly.
More than in a lot of other games.
More than a lot of others.
And it's very difficult for, it's a really difficult push for the Germans to actually achieve their objectives. So the pressure's on immediately, and so the game is very engaging.
Yep.
And again, the playability of this, I mean, so easy. One of the easiest sets of rules I've ever learned.
The other really cool thing about the game is, and this is very often the case in these East Front games, the use of rail is so key for reinforcements.
Yes.
And you gotta really create a perimeter so that you can move your guys up front. If you don't, they're going to be mired in the back and won't get in the fight. I made some mistakes in that regard too, but we learned from that.
Just a really
a good game.
Good game.
Very soloable, I think.
Yep.
No hidden information, and the complexity is very low. So this is a very playable game.
Yes.
We bought that at WBC, and I'm very glad we did.
Yeah. And it's one of those things.
Who's the designer, by the way?
It was a Japanese designer, Tetsuya Nakamura.
Okay.
But yes,
excellent design.
That's a game where I'm like, ooh, I want to go and find the others now.
Oh yeah,
right.
We've started looking.
Yes.
So that was my number 10.
So my number 9 was a game we actually played quite early.
Played that in April.
Yes. So and this came out in like January, February of 2022.
Right.
Which is like over a year ago since we made this video. But this is Successors. It's a little bit of a cop-out because it's a 4th edition.
Yeah.
But this is a new...
Published by Phalanx.
Yeah, and it is stunning, it's beautiful, it's got all the kind of bling in this that you could ever possibly want.
Great production.
Yeah, we took it to Buckeye Game Fest, we played it there, we played it with 5 players, which is the most that it can hold. And it's just... I love those big multiplayer war games. Often a lot of them are kind of point to point, and it's your little hand of cards trying to make the right moves that you need to do and use your points. And this one's, you use your points with a commander, and there's a little matrix, and that's how many movement points you get and all that kind of stuff. But it was just a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
This was a really good game, and the production value is kind of off the charts for this as well.
It's a beautiful game. I love this because there's a real need for players to play together.
Yes.
There's a couple of the powers, and it's been so long, I'm not going to... A couple of powers are pretty powerful, and you've got to band with some of the lesser, basically successors of the time, and kind of fight together and work together a little bit, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed having to... Because I was one of the... I wouldn't say weaker, I just didn't have the formidable forces on the board, and I had to be cagey about my movement and tried to work with at least one other player so that we could figure out how to beat. And the very cool thing is there's some really interesting, unique mechanics in this, like the funeral cart.
Yes. Yeah, but at the beginning,
So
Alexander's
cool.
dead, but you're all vying to have the funeral cart
come to your
capital.
Yeah.
And because whoever gets it gets a bunch of prestige. You can make,
it's trying to legitimize yourself by... That was a fantastic, interesting experience that I would love to dive into again. Mark Simonich is the designer here.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me that I like it. And this is a game that I would love to take to another con because it plays 5 players.
Yes.
It's great.
I also really like on the back of this box, where it has like the list of the inventory of all the pieces, it has almost 500 tokens. I like that they were specific. I just thought it was funny.
There's a lot of tokens, yeah.
One of my favorite things...
Almost 500.
The experience that we had at Buckeye Game Fest is we had this set up, and...
Yeah,
everyone comes over because it's eye candy.
Yeah.
But half of those people were like, oh man, I've got the first edition on my shelf at home. I played this 30 years ago.
Yep.
Like, this brought out so many memories of other people who were there in the war room. That was really fun to kind of see as well. I thought it was just a nice little side effect.
It kind of created some interesting discussions, us able to interact with people that maybe we wouldn't have had the chance. So,
but yeah, a game that's got this kind of staying power, you know it's good. It was very enjoyable.
And I would say Phalanx is one of those companies that they choose good games and they overdo them. Not overdo them, that's a bad...
They give them the treatment they deserve.
They really give them a high-level treatment. The art on this one is fantastic. The cover is just beautiful.
Do you remember the cards?
They're oversized.
Tarot cards. Yeah. I mean, it's great.
The minis are great. Yeah, that was a great game. That was very hard not to add to my list. So that was your...
That's my number 9.
Number 9. So my number 9, and I was surprised after we played this, because I'm not sure I thought this would be high on my list. This is a fantastic game.
Yes.
I think you enjoyed it
Did
significantly.
indeed. It was very, very good.
It's got that Blue Panther smell. This is Zermatt, Insurgency in Afghanistan, I think is the subtitle. I can't find it now. This is designed by Tim Densham, an Afghanistan veteran, and a game publisher, Catastrophe Games. This is not a traditional war game, though. It's based on the idea that you're trying to win over the hearts and minds of the people.
Yes.
And that you've got insurgents who are popping up here and there, and you're trying to counteract and nullify their ability to affect you by controlling. It boils down to an area control game, right?
Yes.
And you have a very cool action selection mechanic. There you can kind of see it right there, where each of the abilities are different. It's like attack, move, build, and you can't take the actions you want because there's a cost factor that kind of moves as you take actions.
Yeah, they're like in a row, and it's like the cheap ones, and they get more expensive, and it's cycling those.
Yep. So you've got to make a decision based on your minimal resources and decide, okay, I got to do this and I got to do this, but I can't do that because that's too expensive. I found myself putting my commander hat on and trying to direct troops and decide, okay, we got to quell over here because this is a really important region. Oh, and by the way, the region is unique.
Yes.
It can change because it's based on tiles.
Yeah, your setup for this game will always be different. It's tile-based. It's really neat.
But it's so interesting, and then the victory conditions kind of float. It's just fascinating. It felt very Afghanistan war-like. Not necessarily open combat, not necessarily force of arms versus other force of arms. It's the concept of, I got to root out what I don't like and build what I like. Fascinating game. I would play this one in a heartbeat. It's a 2-player game, plays in about an hour, 1 to 1.5 hours. This is a great game. Yes. This will never leave my shelf, and I need to look for an opportunity to play it.
Yeah, that's a really, really
and the production value on that for a new company
is
very good. I think the tiles are beautiful. They're really cool. There's a lot of theme there. Even look at the cover. I mean, it's just great.
Really, really good game.
Great work, Tim. Tim's got a nice little company. They put out nice little games.
Yes.
And I look forward to them continually.
And they have a sequel for that.
They do. It's called Seder City.
Which, but same system.
Same system.
Generally.
Bigger scale, bigger scope. You're dealing with like 10 or 12 tiles. This one's going to be like 20 tiles.
Yes.
So it'll be a bigger war game, and I'm looking forward to that. But that was very unique. Really enjoyed it.
So my number 8 game of the year is this bad boy.
Oh, so good.
Point Blank Vs. a Victory. The biggest board in war game. That's not true. But this game is...
The board's huge.
Yeah, the game is huge. It's chock full of cards. So this is a tactical, card-based war game.
Yeah.
From Lock and Load Publishing. There you go. Let's get that out here.
Designed by Sean Drulinger.
Yes.
And we played a prototype copy of this in 2017 at our first WBC, and immediately fell in love with it.
We've been looking forward to this for a very long
time. For years.
Because we played it then, and it's changed some since then, but the skeleton was still there, and I remember being like, "Oh, that was so cool!" Because at the time, around then, I had learned Up Front, which I'd played with John.
Oh, we love Up Front.
And he was like, "Ooh, the nostalgia of that." He taught me that, and was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then we played this, where it's a big kind of a leap forward from that.
Yeah, it's got some of the elements.
Some of the spatial elements.
The concept of terrain is never set. You move into an area,
and
the terrain can change.
And,
it's very unique.
And there's this cards and this kind of grid that you're using. But bolted onto that, you have the lock and load tactical system for spotting, shooting, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of crunch in there on top of that.
Well, and it felt familiar because we played a lot of lock and load tactical. So that part of it was very familiar, and I really loved the upfront-esque elements of. This one didn't make my list, but it is definitely one of my honorable mentions. It's a fantastic game.
It's a wonderful game, absolutely massive. There's so much in here. It's kind of gross.
Well, you could play this every weekend for a year, and I don't think you're going to get all the scenarios.
No, well,
done.
and there's a scenario generator in it as well.
Yeah,
so you're like, cool, you can just play this like forever.
This is one of those value games where you're going to buy this and just play it and play it and play it and play it and play it.
And and the artwork's great on it. It's nice to play.
Production's very nice. The cards are great. There's a lot of different size of cards and just very cool.
So yeah, Point Blank vs. Victory from Lock and Load, an absolute corker of a game.
I love that game.
Just very, very, very cool to play.
Yeah. Really, really like that one. That was your number 8?
That was my number 8.
Need to make sure I get... Okay, my number 8 is a game that surprised the absolute heck out of me. We played this game. This was the second game of 2022 that we played. So we played this game like in January. And Imperial Tide, The Great War, 1914 to 1918, designed by Gregory M. Smith and Compass Games. This is a card-driven game, very similar to his other games, Pacific Tide. What's the other one? Ostkrieg, which is the East Front. This game is really fun, very playable, very interesting and unique, and you get a lot of player choice in it because you have to build your deck. The cards available to you almost every round. Yeah,
it's like the cards are seeded for the years of the war, but then it's like you've got this hand of cards and you choose which ones are going in. You have on top of your core ones.
I think you have build points that you can. Yeah. You might have 8 build points this year for the Germans, and that's only going to get you 3 or 4 cards.
But then you shuffle them up and you split them into 2 piles, and you've got one for the first half of the year and the other for the second.
And that was one of the mechanics that I really enjoyed. I remember doing that thinking, oh, this is taking all my agency away. But it was awesome because I picked that hand of cards up and it's like, oh, I've got to make the best out of this situation. It's one of the things I love about card-driven games is you kind of got to make something out of garbage. This game was also very beautiful. I think production-wise, the board is literally covered with World War I era posters.
Yes.
I just thought it was such a nice touch. The colors, the beauty. We played this and had a blast.
It was very, very, very
This
good.
felt to me a lot like The Lamps Are Going Out.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It has some similarities. I don't want to say that it replaces that game or takes the place of that game.
No.
Because they're both unique.
I would keep both. It's tough.
I think this one is... I'm not sure this one's going to leave my shelf.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, it's
and look
really,
at the art.
really good.
I mean, the art is fantastic. There's the back of the box. I had a great time with this.
Yeah.
I'd play this at the drop of a hat. So this is my number 8, Imperial Tide.
Yeah, this is... that's very, 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 very good game.
Yeah.
I agree.
We actually played a lot of great games this
We
year.
did. So, my number 7, a game that's already been mentioned.
Yep.
Zermatt. Like, can't speak highly enough of this game. This is a game that most of you haven't played, and you should rectify that.
And I think it's one of those games, like when I go on the BGG post, there's just not much there.
Well, yeah.
There's our video.
I
don't know why people don't know about this game.
It's a small company, and it's a fairly niche game. But
it was a Kickstarter.
The action economy that you're using reminded me a little bit of The River from Conan.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's the price of the things over here is very expensive, so I could do the cheap or free ones over here.
And there's always that one thing you really want to do, but it's just overpriced because you don't have enough. I can't remember what they called them, action points, or
Yeah,
you just don't have enough to buy all the things that you want to do.
But then also on top of that, and this is part of the reason why I like a lot of Coin as well, is the fluidity of the game state, of the tactical situation is very intense.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're moving guys around, you're driving them around, and like the game state 2 turns ago does not look like what it's doing now. And this is a game of adaptability. And so many games, it's like, I've got to defend this, and this is my static defense, and I build my fortifications. Ain't none of that in here. It is a swirling mess, and it is really fascinating to engage with.
The other part that I really loved about this game, I didn't talk about it much in my comments, the draw bag.
Yeah.
There's a draw bag of insurgent units and your units. So a lot of them are decoys, right? And you're drawing out every time and looking at those and then placing them, because it's an area control game.
Yeah.
In essence, what it is.
And so then I'm moving in, and it's like,
And, oh, I had 3 decoys there. Ha, 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 ha. And just those kind of games are fun.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it.
This is, like, take a long, hard look at this. Because it's well worth your time, for sure. 2 players, though. You're not playing this with 1 player.
No, there's too much hidden information.
Nope. But it's really good.
It's really good.
Very, very, very good.
So that was your
That was
number.
my number 7.
Okay, sorry, my number 7. My goodness, are we at number 7 already? We are.
Hey.
This is going really quick. Okay, my number 7. We actually played this tonight before we shot this video again for the third or fourth time. Undaunted Stalingrad from Osprey Games. This is designed by the dynamic duo of David Thompson, Trevor Benjamin. This is entry number 4 in the Undaunted series. But this is the first one that has legacy
Look at how big it is.
elements. This is a huge box. This thing weighs about 10, 12 pounds, has 120 map tiles, 500-600 cards, whole bunch of counters and tokens, big 10-sided dice. It's a tactical deck building game. And you're probably going, what? Tactical and deck building? It works.
Yep.
It does an amazing job and does exactly what it's supposed to do. Because you're trying to build your squad based on an efficiency of that deck so that you can activate the same guys over and over and over and over again. It does you no good to put in 15 different guys because you're never going to be able to do what you need to do.
Yep.
So you got to be choosy. What am I trying to do? What's my objectives? What's the condition of the terrain? What are you doing? Oh, I'll put those guys in and then I can start shooting you. Fantastic. I love it. This is a campaign game, though. It's legacy. It's legacy style. Tiles are going to change because they got bombed by Stukas. We revealed Stukas this evening. Your guys are going to be casualties and have to be replaced in your squad. And guess what? Your rifleman that was good before, he's now been injured or wounded or killed, and his replacement is garbage.
Yep.
He can't do everything that you could do before.
He's green. He's not good.
And you've now got a deck that's lesser, and you got to keep, oh, by the way, you have 10 or 12 scenarios left.
Yeah.
So a blast. We've had a good time with this. We're going to continue to play this, maybe 1 or 2 scenarios every couple of weeks. We've done a first impressions video. We did an unboxing. We did a playthrough of the first scenario.
Yes.
Really had very limited spoilers in it. That hasn't come out yet, I don't think. But look for that, and then we're going to play through this, and we'll do an end of the campaign summary. My favorite thing about this is it feels like Stalingrad.
Yes,
honestly.
How they've able to pack a lot of that in, and it being a meat grinder, and the destructible terrain, and the urban fighting. They've done a really good job with it. If you like Undaunted, you will love this. Because it's different. It's the same system, it's just to the next level. It's everything
the next
you
generation.
love, with a little bit extra that's...
Very, very happy to... Now, the next one is Battle of Britain, so it's going to have air combat.
And that's quite different with the tactical resolution.
I can't remember, do you need this on?
I do not.
Okay.
This is an honorable mention for me, but if you'd asked me to make this list tomorrow, that would probably be on the list.
Well, we had a great time with it today.
It's so good.
Even. Yeah.
Yes.
It's very hard to make these lists.
Very.
I struggle with it.
Yeah.
I struggle with it so hard.
So, my number 6 is Alma Ravid from GMT Games.
Levian Campaign Series Volume 2.
Designed by Volko Runke. This is
It's amazing.
more Levian campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Nevsky, then there's this. This is bigger, better,
yep.
and uncut.
The map is double the size. There's a lot. There's even the Taifa politics.
Yeah, there's an extra political layer on top
Very
of it.
cool.
But you still have the levying your units, having to feed and pay your lords, doing successful battles so they get the loot so they stick around.
Yep.
All that stuff you're familiar with. The different unit types and the weapons matrix. The push your luck of the dice combat defense. Love that part of it. Absolutely brutal, but love it.
The thing I love about this system, the concept of I'm a lord, I'm trying to win this war, but I got to have guys fighting on my side.
Yeah.
That means I've got to pay them. I've got to keep them. I've got to feed them. And you got to plan all that out. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
You can do some ravaging of the the landscape.
There's only so much you can do.
But I took this one off my list, and it pained me greatly.
Yeah.
Because I loved it.
It was great.
I absolutely had a great time with this, and I can't wait for the next one, Inferno.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Seeing the loyalty of your generals wane if you are not good.
Yeah.
Like, they owe fealty to you as their king, but if you're getting your guys killed and you're losing all these battles, they're like, see you, we're done. And that fluidity is, again, something I really enjoy in games, where it's like, you can never be quite sure, and it's just so great. But if you can pull off a good campaign, and you can get the ball rolling, it feels great.
And the thing about the combat system in this one, it's very unique and very interesting.
Never played anything like it.
Different units have different capabilities, and they have different... Some are better at taking hits, some are better at dealing hits. Your knights are the best, and they have an armor rating. And your units that have the best armor rating, you can shove them up front, and you can decide, I'm going to take those hits, because you're rolling dice to kind of defeat those hits.
Yeah.
And I have a better chance with my knights, but guess what?
As soon as he dies, you're like, uh-oh.
I'm done.
The dominoes fall.
And it's a press your luck style. It feels very tense and impresses upon you the need to be cautious, yet to sometimes risk it.
Yeah.
And I love that. And there's been many a times I've risked it and absolutely lost. But then you can come back. I also like the capability cards.
Yeah.
You can build your guys and make your crossbowmen better, or your... It's just fantastic. The system is amazing.
This is a logistics game that's like disguised as a war game.
Yes.
But in such a good way.
How did I take this one off my list? Can I put that back on? I can't do that.
It's so
I took it off and I felt bad doing it.
It's so good.
It is very good. That was your
my number 6.
Your number 6. So my number 6, and this is one I thought long and hard about putting on or leaving off, but I reminded myself we had a blast playing this.
It was good.
And I think it's so interesting. I'm not going to say it's unique. You roll some dice, you have a to-hit value, but it's understanding how to use your cards that you're given.
Whilst this might not be unique in that way, to me, and I don't know, this is unique in the American Civil War space.
I would agree with that.
I don't think there's a lot of games quite like this.
Yeah.
In that space.
So this is Brothers at War, 1862, American Civil War. This is designed by Christopher Muller and published by Compass Games. We actually got to play a scenario or something at WBC.
Yeah, we
walked
talked
to
us through
Chris.
it. It was great.
Then we got it out. We played one of the scenarios in Valverde. Never have played a war game on kind of that Western theater. And we just had a blast. I mean,
it was just good fun.
I put this on the list because I thought it was so unique and well done. I know he's trying to do another kind of the next...
Yeah, because this is a quad pack.
Yeah, it's like it's got 4 different battles. I think the next one he's going to do has 4 different battles.
And it's 1863.
Yep, and I just think this is a great little system. And if you haven't played this, if you like American Civil War, I recommend you give this a try. And I had a blast with this
The other nice thing, there's 4 different battles, but each of those 4 battles has different length scenarios or like the whole battles in them. So you could have like a big game and do a big one.
Well, the big one's Antietam.
But and I think that has 3 different scenarios in it.
Well, it's Miller's Cornfield, South Mountain's different.
Oh, so yeah, this one has 4 scenarios.
Yeah, it does
This
have 4
one's got
scenarios.
3, 3, and 3. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
But, like-
there are 4 different battles, but they each have different parts.
But you can tailor this to whatever you want it to be. Which
Yes.
you can't do in a lot of other ones where it's like they're huge or they're very
Yeah.
tiny. And so that's another really nice part of this, is it covers a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, and it can be, hey, we've only got 2 hours. Okay, let's do this. Oh, I've got
Yeah.
4 hours. Let's do this. It's really, really malleable as a game, which is nice.
Low complexity. I think the rules are very well done. And there's a time mechanic that I really enjoy too.
Yes.
It's that concept of, if I draw the second time marker, the turn ends.
It's a chit draw game, which I always appreciate.
I love chit draw.
Good for solo play.
Yeah, chit draw activates, and just a really good game. I really enjoyed this. I love the cards. The cards were fun too, because that throws some gaminess into it, and that's okay. 1862. Really enjoyed this. This was my number 6.
So, my number 5 is Imperial Tide from Compass Games. This is World War I in a box. Takes about 3 to 4 hours to play, and it rocks. It's really good. I think there's like a scale of these big strategic World War I games. There's like Paths of Glory, which is like 20 hours long. It's freaking huge.
Yep.
Then there's Lamps Are Going Out,
Which is kind of the
which is
middle
like
road, 6
6
hours.
to 8 hours. Then this is 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And but like the angst of the card play is really cool, but the gameplay itself has a really nice pace to
Yeah.
it. I loved this game. It was really, really good.
And just like many of those other games you mentioned, you can fight this war any way that you want, right? We always, I think, when we play World War I games, we somehow think we're going to break the Western Front and change the course of the war.
I'm going to do exactly what they did, and it's going to be different.
And every time we end up,
And it
okay,
never is.
let's go to the East. This game follows through with that, so to me that tells me it's a good design.
Well, and just like any good World War I game, the Western Front gets very attritional and very
Stagnant.
very quickly.
Yeah.
You can butt heads and everyone will die, but
Yeah.
you'll never make progress. Whereas the East is much more open, but it's really hard to keep and like maintain ground.
Yeah.
And then you also have like the Balkans and the
there's some-
Italian front, and it's like you can do some cool stuff, and
Yeah.
others like, no, they're just a defensive force.
I enjoyed meddling in the Balkans and Italy, and then on the East Front. That was fun.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have done more of that earlier.
A really, really good World War I game, and it says 3 to 4 hours. I mean, that's what.
Yeah,
we need.
that's what it is. Yeah.
This is a single session, all of World War I.
Yeah.
That's great.
I feel like that one can be soloed as well. You're going to be playing best move for each side.
Yeah, it's just managing the cards. And
Yeah,
managing
it's
your cards. That's a little bit tough.
might be a little burdensome.
Lamps Are Going Out's better for that.
I would agree. A little simpler.
So that was my number 5. Imperial
All right.
Tide.
So my number 5. Is this my second game from MMP? It is.
It is.
BCS Air Court. We had never played the Battalion Combat series.
Nope.
We bought this early on. I think we pre-ordered this.
Yeah, this came on a
correct?
pre-order early in 2020.
I want to say we got it like in March or April.
Something like that.
We clipped it, reviewed it, we pushed some counters around, and then we played. I had a blast with it.
Yes.
It is a very different scale than a lot of the other games that we've played. Different scale than SES. It has some really unique elements. The blob,
Blobs.
the baggage trains. There's just some really unique stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice balance between good fun play and like some of the command structure, the logistics, the
Yeah.
supply. You know, there are some games that have none of that, and it's just like numbers and rolling dice. And
Right.
there's other games where it's like, where's my Excel spreadsheet?
Yep.
This is a really, really nice fine balance between the two.
There's a lot of unique stuff here. I remember the screen concept that you could do. That was fun. I wanted to explore that more. And then they had some nice chrome. They had that one, what was it called? The plane that rode around with like rockets on it.
Oh, yeah,
I'm trying to remember but it was from history. That was kind of cool.
It was like one dude who
can't remember what that was
some,
called.
like
Yep.
bazookas to the sides of his planes. It was
Hilarious.
stupid like that.
But you can use that. That's kind of a bit of, so there's a little bit of
A little
chrome.
event that comes up, and he's like, ooh.
Just a little bit of chrome.
But this is great. One map, I think
Yeah.
it's like a counter sheet and a half. We played this as an introduction to that system.
Yep.
It's perfect for that.
In fact, we've bought other BCS titles.
Yes.
Chariots, Brazen Chariots, and what's the other one?
I had Brazen Chariots on the shelf before that.
Okay. What
And
other
then
one do
we
have?
just got...
Baptism by Fire.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, North Africa, right? Or Kazarine Pass. Isn't that one Kazarine Pass?
I don't remember.
We need to get it clipped and then ultimately play
We've got
those.
so many we don't know what they
Yeah,
are.
but I would say MMP really stepped their game up on this one. I thought the art was better, the map looked better, components were a little thicker. It felt like a better production.
The nice thing with this one is that the hexes are a little bit bigger and the pieces are a little bigger. The Brazen Chariots has like the
Very
tiny
small
counters, and the tiny hexes, and it's huge, and there's a lot of them. So
Yeah.
this was much more manageable, great introduction to the system.
I had a great time with this system.
Very, very, very good game.
So that was my number 5.
All right, so
we're halfway done.
Halfway done. Top half of the list. So everything else was garbage up until this point. That's not true.
Oh wait, that was 6, 5. That was 5.
5, yeah. So my number 4 is one of the biggest boxes we played this year. Sorry, I'm up here. A Most Fearful Sacrifice from Flying Pig Games.
This game is amazing.
This game's incredible.
Yeah.
If only I had a table big enough to play the whole thing.
The whole thing is like 2 maps that are the size of a car.
Yeah, like you need like a ping pong table
Yeah.
to play the whole thing.
So we only played a smaller scenario.
We play on a northern half of the map.
We want to play it again and try it, but we need to get our table. We need to get our table.
We'll be saying that for another 2 years, by the way.
Yeah.
But this system is the Black Swan system.
Yep.
Which is not blind swords, but it shares some similarities to it, although it's card based instead of chipple.
The concept behind the Black Swan is it's designed to handle bigger conflicts.
Yes.
Supposedly.
And this game has this whole command structure to it. Like you have
Fantastic.
these like play aids, and there's all like the different divisions within the regiments and things
It
like that.
doesn't use chit pull. It uses cards for activation. More often than not, Herman has used chit pull in his bigger operational and strategic games, like At Any Cost wasn't that chit pull? That was chit pull.
Yeah.
This one doesn't do that. It uses your cards, but that command structure, very important.
Yeah, you pull a card and activates this regiment, and then you go into the divisions within the regiment, or whatever, the other way around, I don't know. I don't remember anymore. And then, like, the way that your different divisions are, those have a priority. And depending on what card you drew, it's activate this block, and within that you roll a die, and it's like, do I activate all of them, or do I activate only the first 2 priorities, or all sorts of this stuff.
Very interesting.
And so you get, it's an element of chaos to it, and being able to try and activate guys and how you align your command system to who you need to go, really, really neat. And then you get, pretty classic American Civil War combat resolution.
Yeah.
Chucking dice, attrition, it's all that musket and rifle fire. Run up, shoot people, run away, run up, shoot people, run away.
Yeah.
Cavalry charging around, bring out the cannons, everything that you would expect.
Yeah.
Stunning production value in this.
This is a Rick Barber map,
Yeah.
and this is the final map I believe that he did before he passed. God rest his soul.
It is the final one he did for these guys, it's not the last one.
Okay, there's another one.
Yes.
Okay, but it's beautiful.
Absolutely stunning.
And it's a Rick Barber map. You can tell.
Oh, yeah.
If you know his maps, you exactly know when it's his map. And Herman Luttman did a great job with this. Flying Pig knocked it out of the park. The only problem we had with this was the player aids were so minuscule small.
The play aids had a
couldn't read
typeface for
them.
ants.
Yeah.
But they did a second edition of this.
They did, and they upgraded
And
those.
they fixed those, so you can actually read them now. So good for them.
So this is still available now from that second edition Kickstarter.
Yeah, and it's like, you have to, this is it, right? This is 3 days at Gettysburg. This is the biggest game.
Does the whole shebang
It's
bang.
so good. Like, go and buy this.
Yeah.
If they're out, wait for the 3rd edition. Like, you will want to get this. It is excellent.
This is a fantastic game. I'm going to move this over here. So
that was my number 4, A Most Fearful
number
Sacrifice.
4. My number 4. This was a game that I did not expect that I would like as much as I did. I'm not sure you liked it as much as I liked it.
No, you loved this game.
But I just loved it. Barbarians at the Gates from Compass Games, designed by Chris Van Burden. This is a barbarians against Romans, and the barbarians have every upper hand, and that's fine. It is such an interestingly unique experience because you got to plug holes, you got to fall back, you got to fight usurpers behind your lines. I had a great time with this. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's a big war game. It's a card-driven game, but it's a big game, big map, lots of counters, and you just don't know where to go and what to do as the Romans. Barbarians are just continually assaulting the Danube front, up in Britannia,
and then it's
down south in Hispania.
It's revolts fantastic. And stuff that's going on behind the lines that you're triggering.
I thought the card play in this was really unique. There were just some really cool concepts. The foederati, the usurpers, just so unique how you could use your cards. And I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a beautiful game. I wrote a very long first impressions post on this, and I have not changed my opinion about this one at all. I think it's fantastic. This is one that's going to stick on my shelf for a long, long time. I thought Chris did a great job.
Very enjoyable game.
And it's also a very good topic. I just think that's a great period.
And it's quite, I feel like it's just quite different from a lot of those other those games where it's like the entire board is red with Romans, and it's like it's up to you. You got to change that.
Yep.
It's very not a lot of games do that in that way. I don't think.
So that was my number 4. So, sorry, it's late.
Number 3 is A Victory Awaits from MMP.
Yeah.
I loved this game. This was a joy to learn and a joy to play. It was so easy. It was just like, I didn't know going into this what this system was like.
Yep.
And so I was expecting something that maybe a little bit detailed, a bit crunchy. And I read the rules and was like, oh, I just learned the game by accident. Like, it's 4 pages of rules.
Yeah, I want to say it was 4 or 5 pages of
rules.
Yeah.
I read it and was like, huh. And then we set it up and you just go. Like, the game is just, you play it. You're immediately playing this because if you've played any other hex encounter game, you know the rules, right?
Yeah.
Attack, defense, move, like a little zone of control, movement, zones of control, terrain effects. That's it. That's the game, right? And then you get, and then the real game is your supply, right?
Yeah.
Got to stick to these rail routes and whatever.
You got to protect your flanks because you don't want to get outflanked and out of supply, and that happens very easily in this game.
And it is rushing as the Russians to like train defenders in to these cities that are like undefended as the front totally collapses immediately.
And I think I mentioned this when I talked about this a couple of games ago. The Germans, the onus is on the Germans.
Yes.
And the Russians will be falling back strategically, but I think they have the great opportunity to counterattack. And that's a rare thing in a lot of East Front that we've played. There's some that do it really well. This one did that really well.
Yeah, because you're trying to swing around and cut supply, which is easier to do than it is in some other games where it's really punitive and you have to have like full unbroken lines. This one, it's like, hey, you just got to go and sit on that railroad, and this division is hosed.
Yep.
So this was very enjoyable.
I loved it.
It has 3 maps in it for North, Central, and South fronts and army groups. You can play it concurrently and have like 6 players. Oh, I think you can do 5 players in this one. Okay. Because you do 2 and 3, I believe.
Got it.
But I might be wrong about that. But you can play it with a bunch of people. I watched some people online do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm so jealous. That would be...
Yeah, that would be fun.
Because if you're playing it concurrently on the 3 fronts, it doesn't make the game any longer, basically.
Nope.
You're doing it all together, and it's great.
And I'm trying to think the scenario we played... I mean, it took us a good 4.5 to 5 hours to play it.
Yeah, it's a 9-turn scenario.
And I think I conceded in turn 7 because you just cut off a lot of my guys.
Yes,
they died.
And
I counted the spaces, and I'm like, okay, I can't even get there. So we can, but I loved it. I would have loved to have set that back up and played it again. Plus, the Shostakovich made that experience so great.
It's really easy to make that like a fun, enjoyable experience.
We have a short on our YouTube channel about that, and I thought that was pretty fun. So that was your number 3?
Number 3, Victory Awaits.
Let me double check my number 3. Okay, another good Hex Encounter war game. Salerno 43 from GMT Games, designed by Mark Simonich. Mark Simonich is a genius. I have always loved his systems.
Yeah.
This one is very, very good. It's on the Italian invasion at Salerno. And this is game 1 in a 3-game series that kind of goes north, pushing on Rome. Lots to love about this. The terrain, very punitive.
Yes, this is all rough terrain and mountains.
All rough terrain and mountains. And the defenders, the Germans, really can use that terrain to their advantage a lot. And the Allies have to be very cagey, but the Allies have to push it.
Yeah,
when you get on the beach, you got to get off the beach. And I love the landing procedure. It's very simple. I love the combat mechanic. It's just very good. And you're just pushing for different victory cities. And we played this, and it came down to the came down to the very last roll. And I think I pushed you off.
Yeah, you won.
And was able to drive in, advance after combat, and I held that and was able to win. Very small game. I think this is
It's one map, but it's like only half a map.
Yep.
Really introductory, friendly for someone who wants to dive in to this system specifically.
I think the scenario we played took almost 4 hours. I think the campaign game that goes to the north would take 6 hours, is my guess.
Yeah, it adds, I think, 8 more turns.
I didn't feel like it was 8 more turns.
Yeah.
We played the first 8, so yeah, it's another 8.
But
it's easier.
Those other 8, it's a very different game after that.
Yeah.
It's a very different game than it turns into.
I just really enjoyed this. There's a lot to like.
Yeah, really solid game.
And the concept of desperate defense is here. I've always loved that mechanic, but you can only use it in certain conditions. Yes. And you got to be, that was the one thing I think we struggled with, because I'm like, I want you to do desperate defense, and you're like, no, you don't meet this requirement and this requirement, you can't do it. But Salerno 43, and this is not on your list.
No, that didn't make it this year. The other ones were just even better.
Well, it's hard, but I really love this one. So Salerno 43.
So, my number 2 war game of 2022 is BCS Era Court.
I don't know what that game is.
BCS Era Court was so good.
Yep, loved it.
I do a lot of rules reading for this channel.
Yes.
And this was a set of rules that was unique, something quite different from a lot of the other games that we've played.
Yep.
That you have your different sides of your units for move and attack sides.
Very unique. That's a very unique mechanic here in this game.
Yeah, the blobs that you'll hear talked about is effectively like your area of operations for your battalion. And
it's not a limit of hex spaces necessarily, although the baggage train
you got to keep yourself in command range.
But it's kind of an interesting concept, because you just kind of draw a messy circle around you.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I found that to be interesting.
And so what that prevents you from doing is, if you cross a bunch of streams, you start taking a bunch of disruption modifiers. It's because you mess up your cohesion, you're crossing lines and stuff. And so it makes you think about your combat very differently from something like A Victory Awaits, where you're just like, hey, get everyone in a line and let's go.
Nope, this is a little different.
You think about it very differently on that slightly more close in scale, where you're like, hey,
that's a good point.
We don't mess with those guys. They've got their turf, we got our turf, let's go.
Well, and I feel like that creates some really interesting opportunities for how you attack objectives. Because you have a little more leeway as compared to some of those, but it's also a little more strict than some other games we play.
And this game also has the very iconic snafu roll. Which is just like, you roll a die, and it's like, will you do anything on your turn?
And you can actually continue to activate. That roll just gets harder and harder and harder.
Yeah, and if you mess it up early, you're like, oh,
I can't do anything.
I can't do anything. And so
that's a unique thing.
It's very gamey, but to me it's something that's enjoyable, because that's where the chaos in this game gets put into it. And it's chip pull.
Right.
You have this snafu roll, and it's like,
and that first roll, I think, is, you've really got to mess up to mess it up.
But it can happen, though.
It can happen.
It's gross.
But any roll after that, it's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Ooh, I had to roll a 5 on 2d6. I did it. I get to activate again.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. I did enjoy that. That continuous opportunity to activate based on kind of momentum and other things. Kind of cool.
And playing this sparked us to buy a bunch of other BCS games,
Yeah.
so that's how good it was.
Yeah, we'll get them played someday. BCS Aircourt, I absolutely
Really
loved
good.
it. So that was your number 2.
That's my number 2.
My number 2 is from a newer company. I freaking love this game. Donnerschlag,
That's
Escape
incredible.
from Stalingrad. This is from VUCA Simulations. It is a Patrick Gebhardt, I think is the designer, right? Patrick Gebhardt and Pepito Shazagudi.
Sure.
I think I got that right. So this is an East Front game, but it's in the winter, so everything's frozen.
Yep.
The winter becomes a significant impediment to the German advance, and the Germans are trying to break through and free the pocket of 6th Army, I think it was, if I'm trying to remember.
This is von Harth trying to charge and liberate the troops who are stuck in Stalingrad.
Yeah. A very unique game. It uses cards, which I think are very fantastically done. There are activation cards, and then there are, really the cards are multi-use.
Yeah,
so
the event part of it.
you have an event part, then there's even a combat part. Just makes for a very playable game.
Yeah.
The Germans are on the offensive. They're trying to punch through. But the real kicker here, and the reason it's called Donnerschlag, is at a certain point in the game, round 3 or round 4,
Yes.
you've got to make a decision about which part of the pocket you're going to attack. And you have to call Donnerschlag, and you say, I'm going to A. Or,
Well,
you don't declare
even declare it.
You
but
declare it to
you
yourself.
decide with a little hidden cheat.
Yep. And you have to have put yourself in position to make that, because it's not an easy
No.
it's not an easy thing at all. And the game is not about a combined unified front. It is about lightning quick, lightning strike, thunderclap, right? You've got to pick an area, you've got to have some good advances, and you've got to push it. And I loved that. I really enjoyed that. I think you enjoyed this game as well.
I did. I love this game.
It just felt very playable.
Yeah. So, spoiler
And enjoyable.
alert, my number 1 game of the year is Donnerschlag from VUCA Simulations. This game is incredible.
This
This is everything that I like in a game.
Yeah.
They knocked it out of the park with this. So, and I think when we made the video for this, or maybe shortly afterwards, I told you I came to the decision that I really like operational games.
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
a scale that I love. I just think, because you have a very focused grand goal that you have to get to,
Yep.
but you also get like nice tactical elements in it as well. But it's just having this focused thing in a hex encounter war gets really nice. I don't know. But you also get like some supply and then like some kind of a command structure typically. And you get to like have all the fun stuff like artillery and air support. And
Yeah.
like you get
Yeah.
everything in it
Yeah.
without it being kind of watered down at like a huge level.
Well, I also feel like it's not as cumbersome.
Typically not, no.
And that's why I also enjoy operational scale.
Yeah.
And this one was just fantastic. I would play this again in a heartbeat. I think it's one of those games that you can play this over and over again because you're going to have different successes in different areas and decide, okay, I'm going to attack there.
So
Anyway, and the winter being your enemy was my favorite part. There's some events like snowdrifts.
yeah, and the Russian player just puts out some snowdrifts just to mess up the Germans.
It was fun, and I thought, okay, yeah, you can't control the weather, but you're just doing what happened,
Yeah,
right?
like there was some random thing that happened,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, that was a spanner in the works.
Very cool, very unique.
This toes the line between game and simulation really well. Like, I loved playing this. It was an excellent game.
Yep.
And I thought what we were doing was realistic enough where I felt like it was a pretty decent simulation as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, this is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But like it also wasn't like, this is just a dice rolling game. Like
Yeah.
there was a really good balance of like good tactics and also like, hey, there's some card play that like totally screws you over. Like it toes that line really well.
Yep.
This is a game where the Germans have all the pressure on them. The onus is on them. Like this is them. Like you have to get from one end of the board to the other.
Yeah.
But I played the Russians in this, and whilst you're putting out some speed bumps, it felt much more engaged than a lot of
Yeah.
other East Front games kind of do.
Right.
I did a few counterattacks here and there, but it was a lot of counter maneuver to
Yep.
cut people off or to like rush guys over to where and block this and to hold these points. I felt like I had a lot to do as the Russians.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a big reason why this was so high in my ratings.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of East Front games that don't. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to do this historically, and that's boring for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This was not boring to play as the Russians. The gameplay was excellent. It was very, very tense.
Well, there was a lot of maneuver too. I was actually surprised by that.
Yeah, it's one map, but then
Yep.
like it's not the whole map because there's big sections
Yep.
which are like, hey, here's the turn tracks. It's not like a hex and
No.
counter war game. It's really, really. I can't speak highly enough of
Yep.
this. Like,
It was a great game.
When I was making the list, this was the only easy. This was number one. There's always going to be number one after we played this. I'm like, yep, it was amazing.
And I think I knew it would always be in my top 3.
Yeah.
So,
It's
fantastic.
Really, really good game. Donnerschlag, VUCA Simulations. They're a German company.
Yep, they are. And I would say this, we have 2 games from them that I am sure, had we got around to playing this year,
We got a few, yeah.
1914 Knock Paris, Paris, right? And then, what was the other one? Bismarck.
Hunt for Bismarck. Well, we also have Operation Theseus. I wanted to play
do.
that too, but
It's just too much.
it's just
And
time things sadly.
I really think VUCA is a company on the coming up. They've got some great games. One game that we've got on the way is Task Force, and it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
Pacific Theater,
Aircraft carriers.
just looks fun. But they really make very playable games, very interesting.
And very good production value as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the orange on that box. I just think it's great. So that was your
That was my number one Donnerschlag game.
and that is a great choice. My number one is A Most Fearful Sacrifice. I'm not sure I need to say much else about this. The only other comment I want to have is Herman Luttman, his Blind Sword series, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows that that's a tried and true system. This is just that system with a little minor adaptation.
Yes.
So it's high quality, and I can't even see over this. I'm going to go ahead and put it down. It's a really good design that's very playable and very fun. I had a blast with this.
Yeah.
I know that Herm, when he puts his games together, he really wants some simulation. He wants some fog of war. He does the 3 Fs, right? The friction of war, fog of war, and
The fun of war.
the fun of war. I mean,
I
I can't remember, but his games are always fun and playable. At Any Cost, we played a couple of
That
years
was a
ago.
great game. Underrated.
Dawn of the Zeds, not a war game, but we love that game. I've played so many of his others, like Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi.
He did Crowbar, which I
Crowbar
played.
is
Little pushy little dice
fantastic.
game.
In Magnificent Style. He just makes a very interesting game that's very playable. This is that way. This could be I think, your preeminent game on Gettysburg. You could replace a lot of your games with this.
You could.
And you're going to play the whole 3 days right here, and it's just fantastic. I enjoyed it so much.
This could be a desert island game.
Agreed.
Like, I don't like American Civil War.
You do
games.
not.
Like, it's not something when you're like, hey, let's play this ACW game. Part of me inside dies. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not excited for. And it's not. I don't like. I just
Yeah.
don't have that same connection
Yep,
to it that
you're
a
right.
lot of people do over here. And so I'm like, sure, this was incredible.
It was.
This was an amazing. Like, the game itself was cool, and I liked what I was doing. It was great. This
Yep.
is a great game, and it wasn't boring at all.
I think the other thing that needs to be pointed out, because this is such a big game,
It's huge.
you can do 2 players. We played it 2-player. You can do the whole shebang-a-bang, and I think you can do up to 4 players.
Yes.
So
So
you
the
just,
big ones, and they presumably divide it
yeah,
up.
you just divide the commands. So this would be one of those fun, nice, big multiplayer war games that you could get out at a convention, and there's a ton of scenarios. Small scenarios, 1-mappers, the whole 2 huge maps.
But a one mapper takes up your whole table.
It does.
So
it took up this entire table, but was a blast.
and you also got the command sheets as well. But yeah,
I
1
put this.
hour or 3 days. Like it's,
Right, that's what it says.
It's as long as the battle
I
itself.
feel like our scenario we played was 3 or 4 hours.
yeah,
Maybe.
we played about 3 or 4 hours with it.
And we were trying to learn things and move things around. I tried some unique stuff. I just really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
I'd recommend this to anybody.
As soon as we have a space big enough for this will be one of the first things
I'm gonna
that
play
we
the
get
whole
out,
thing.
And we'll do like a 3-day. Like we'll
Yeah.
play a big
Yeah.
because it deserves it too.
When we have the table, we can put it underneath and then put the top back on and play something else. We're going to have this set up.
Yeah.
No doubt.
This is that kind of game.
So that was my top 10. Now, we also talked about doing
Some honorable mentions.
And
So-
I'm not sure why I do this, but
My honorable mention, I'll start because he's reaching. Undaunted Stalingrad.
Yep. I'm not bringing back up.
Absolutely love it.
I don't want to get a hernia.
It's so good. It's just so enjoyable. It's fun. It's a fun game. It's great. Love
Yeah,
it.
it's fantastic.
We played a bunch of it. We're gonna play a bunch more.
Well, we just played it tonight before we shot this video, and I'm wanting to. Can we play one more tonight?
yeah,
before
it's
we call it
tough
quits?
to have not put that on the list this
Yeah,
year. It's
it's
really
just
hard to
fantastic.
do. I've also Siege of Mantua.
This was a fun game.
Just a really fun game.
Yeah.
Not something that you're ever gonna see that's quite like this. And I also feel like that this is never gonna come back once it's gone.
Probably.
So what I would say is if you want to
you
get
want it-
this, I would say get it now because I don't think there's ever going to be a second edition of this.
So this is a young Napoleon, right? Kind of before he became
Yes.
Napoleon Bonaparte. Very, very unique situation. There's only a couple of ways that he can go.
very, very tight little maneuver
unique.
game.
But it's fun.
And it's very brittle, and it's takes
Yeah.
an hour and a half to play.
I'm bad at this game, but that's okay. We had a
Yes.
good time with it.
And then I think my last one maybe is Fall of Saigon.
My gosh.
We-
This is very hard for me not to put on our top 10.
Yeah, well, it's
an expansion. Yeah.
and it's like but
It's so good.
Fall of Saigon was a blast. We had
Yeah.
great experience playing this as well.
Yeah.
Just a really enjoyable game.
I wanted to
You get the little tank miniatures. They're not
Yeah.
tanks, though.
The little arrow-shaped tanks, just so cool.
Yeah.
The new spearhead ability is very cool.
And it's
We had a
just-
blast with this.
Yeah, it's the last years of the Vietnam War, and so it's like this internal collapse of South
Yep.
Vietnam, and the NVA just
makes-
charging down, and it's
it
hang
makes-
on for dear life.
It makes for some real fireworks at the end of the game.
Yeah, it does.
Very interesting. I love it. So I have 3. Didn't I have
You
another
said
one?
you had 4, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure
was
where-
Alma Ravid one of them?
Yes, Alma Ravid was one. I really struggled not putting that on my list.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry, Volko. I loved it. I actually liked it a little bit more than I enjoyed Nevsky.
I think I'm inclined to agree with that.
Because of the Taifa politics, I think it adds that extra layer. I just need to play it more. Unfortunately, that came near the end of the year.
I felt like that political layer added a bit more focus to what I was trying to do.
That's true.
Whereas I was like, okay, I'm trying to mess around with this region.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm going to campaign. Whereas Nevsky was like, hey, do what you want.
Yeah, go wherever you want. Yeah.
I was paralyzed by choice in there.
Yeah. So anyway, Nevsky was before.
Alma Ravid.
Alma Ravid. Two of my other 3 honorable mentions were both solo war games. And I struggle putting these on, but they're such damn good games that I don't know how I couldn't mention them. Landsworth Ridge, Volume 4 in the Valiant Defense series from Danverson Games. Our friend David Thompson designed this. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game.
It's got the...
Nils Johansson.
and he's stunning artwork.
But it's just fun and good. And a lot of times these system games just are regurgitations. Oh, I'm going to repackage it. I'm going to call it a
Change a
different
few
thing.
numbers. Ooh.
This is a total new concept. You have new abilities, you have new weapons, you have new things you're trying to do at the end. There's new things that the German attackers are trying to do. They throw medics out there that are forward observers. It's fantastic. The other thing I love about David's games is you can add in difficulty by adding in the tactics cards. You have to be a psychomasochist though to do that because the game's already hard enough.
Yes.
But I really loved this, and I really struggled not to put that on my list. Kaiserkrieg also. World War I, White Dog Games. This is fantastic. Ben Madison, States of Siege, but it's not
of
the
Siege,
yeah.
right?
It's not the typical 5 tracks converging on a point. It's 5 points that when they get overloaded, they attack you, and it's just really unique. Chit pull. The game's going to be different every time, and I swear to you, it's so hard it makes you cry.
Oh, all States of Siege games are
My
like that.
first game I played of that, I think I lost in the third or fourth chit bowl, and I was like, oh, okay, that's why I lost. I can't do that again. And then I did better. I didn't win, but I got near the end, and it was great. My final honorable mention, and this was a game we played 3-player with our friend Mike from St. Louis.
Yep.
You and I think, really enjoyed this. Not sure Mike did, but this is Wars of Religion,
Yes.
France, from Fellowship of Simulation. This was such a unique game.
Yeah, I've not played anything that was quite like this before.
No, it was very different. The design is by Jerome Lefranc, and it's just a great game. It's area control and influence, but you have a very fragile alliance. The first 4 or 5 turns of the game, you and I were allies.
Yes.
The last part of the game, you and Mike, our friend, were allies fighting against me. So I had to try to win before that happened.
Yeah.
And you were trying to win before that happened. It's just such a unique card-driven game.
It's a little bit of a kitchen sink game where you've got this like court phase building your deck, and then you spend those, and then there's a military phase.
Well, it feels like there's like 3 games in one.
Yes.
But they actually work fairly well together.
Yes.
I just am a huge fan of 3-player design games.
Getting your head around it was a little bit.
Yeah.
The copy we have is a prototype copy.
Yep.
Which is I don't know how the final production ended up because
I hope it's better.
yeah, the components were kind of like a limiting reagent to this. It was kind of tough, very small writing and font.
Well, and you moved your hand, and sometimes you dislodge things, and that wasn't good.
The mechanics of what you were doing with spinning certain plates, how the combat works, and supporting your larger ally, but everything goes to him, so why am I helping him so much? But I also need to, because otherwise he'll definitely win. There's some real tough choices to make in this. It's very fun.
I thought the best part of the game before the combat was how you're treating with other countries trying to get mercenaries and money. And you had to roll some dice, and you added some modifiers based on the cards that you used. And it was just, I was like, ooh, this is really fun. Like, I'm enjoying the process of not only doing my area control, but trying to get these things on my side so I have more to do during the sieging or the campaigning season. I just really like this. I'd like to play it again. So I put it on my honorable mention. Philippe Hardy, I think, is the owner of Fellowship of Simulations. And I thought this was a unique game. So really enjoyed playing that, an honorable mention.
So yeah, 2022 was kind of a lot of war games that we played.
Not kind of. It was a lot. 47.
And there was a million that we didn't get to as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's always the case. So just because it didn't make the list doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't play it, I don't like it. Just sometimes you just can't get to them. But yeah, I had a good... Everything that we've talked about tonight was, at minimum, a really good time.
Oh, no doubt.
Right? But
you couldn't go wrong. You couldn't go wrong with any of these games. Obviously, the higher on the list it is, I think we both agree that those games are amazing.
Yeah.
But if you're number 10 on a top 10, you're just as good as number 1, to be honest. It's still a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. And most of us, we just want a good playable game.
Yeah.
And every game we talked about here tonight, I would play again in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I
had a good time with everything that we talked about. So let us know what your favorite games of 2022 were, or any games that you're looking forward to in 2023, because we'll be doing this again in a year's time.
Yep.
And it'll be all new games. So I appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.